This is the thing that companies and B2B companies are missing on.
Mm.
And if you don't have a founder who's going to go stand on top of the mountaintop and preach or evangelize
Mhm.
whatever your product or your service is, if you don't have a guy or a gal that's willing to go do that, you should hire that person. And you have to hire that person, but you don't just hire them with the saying, hey man, just the world's your wild, wild west it. You should create a framework that allows them to be successful what you're trying to curate.
But we're talking about the word like category evangelist. So the
Yeah.
difference between category and brand is comes up in the podcast every now and then, but it's like they wouldn't be promoting use our tool. They're not a brand evangelist, like use our sneakers. It's like what is the best way to treat this type of injury?
This is why it's so important because you need somebody that's almost in-house who's committed to understanding how what those KOLs are highlighting in these conversations apply to whatever product or service you have.
Welcome to the Authentic Content Podcast. And today we have Joe Lemon back. He's been with me a couple of times and he has a new amazing method. We have 5x the effectiveness of all the salespeople in the company you're working with. So they went from closing like one deal a month and now they're closing 5. And it's completely scalable because he's done it with not just one sales guy himself, he's done it with the whole team. And when I heard that, I was like, I need to get Joe on the podcast. You guys need to hear because he's using content and he has a whole method how this works. And his case is medtech, but you can really use this insights into whatever field that you might be in. So welcome to the show, Joe.
Man, Restless, man, this is great being back on the show. And I got to tell you, man, this is something that, you just kind of do with your head down. You're not really thinking about how it's going to impact other people, right? Because you're just trying to
Mm.
like drive business. Like you have these goals and you have limited budget, and you're like, all right, what can I do with this little bit of with this little bit of juice that I do have,
Mm.
and
Mm.
try to just add some more gasoline on the fire that's already happening. So, man, thank you though for helping me kind of think through this process. 'Cause I was just living it. I was just doing it. We are just trying to bring on some brand new business, and we're just trying to grow this company. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get our listeners into it because we
Yeah.
talked a bit before this to really hash this out. But here we go. So it has 3 parts, as we understand. We have the key opinion leader users. We need an expert user of the product. That's the key opinion leader. Then we have patients who are using, in this case, it's medtech. So it's patients using the product, and we have a way to encourage, collect, and distribute their insights, like stories and like success and testimonials from the patients. And lastly, we have a category evangelist, usually employed by the company. That's naturally how it would be, who curates this information and distributes it to the wider audience. And this all combines is doing the 5x conversion. And we'll go to piece by piece here with Joe. So we want to start with maybe we do. I want to go into the expert key opinion leaders first. But is there anything else we're going to add before we head straight into that?
No, 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 no. I mean, because honestly, each different player, or each different role
Mm.
has some there's like a process behind each one of those. So yeah,
Yeah. All right. So key
I'll
opinion
start
leaders. I
with
was asking you before this, like you said, you just send them stuff, and they're that's how it works.
I mean, so like in like medical device sales, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of times, how we start most conversations are that I want to put this in your practice. I want you to feel this. I want you to experience it, and then give me honest feedback about what it's doing for your patients.
Yeah.
And so people that are open to being thought leaders, people that are open to like trying new devices, new products, new instruments, whatever, to help get their patients better outcome. Those are the people that I normally target. If
And
you're
you
like a
told me
laggard,
you told me something about this key opinion leaders. I said, why would they take your stuff if they should get stuff sent to them all the time? And you
right?
told me that if they don't test this stuff, they are not key opinion leaders very long because they will be like, everybody have heard about the new thing, and then the key opinion leaders like, no, I haven't. They can't have that.
It makes you look pretty bad pretty
Yeah.
quick, right? I mean, so even in healthcare, which moves super slow, like normally, I would say that most people are afraid to kind of be that French person because then you look like kind of like a quack, right? You're like,
Yeah, it's too fast. If you're too fast, it's
but so even in this space, people have to be open to trying out new things. And if you wait with let's say give it 2 to 3 years and you're oblivious to something that's going on in your lane of expertise, you look pretty bad pretty quick. So like these people are open to trying out new things. And yes, they do get called on all the time because they're speaking at the actual events. Those are
yeah.
people that we normally target. And there's so many of these like local conferences going on, even the big ones, of course. But I start with the local level people first, these micro influencers that are that are
And
that
by
are
the way, to mention before we go into it, the key opinion leader in your medtech field here, they're practically not online. They're mostly like offline. We're talking conferences and trade shows and stuff. That's where they are.
100%. I mean, like this whole idea that like big pharma is really driving actually, where they have these DOLs, these like
Mm.
digital leaders online. Like, I mean,
Mm.
these people that are doing things at a larger scale, that's not really happening for most of the people whenever they start. Most of these speakers at these events, they don't have a big following because they're
Yeah.
too busy building like they're business owners first,
Yeah.
then they're KOL second, and then they might put out some content last, right?
Yeah.
Because they're writing papers and they're doing other things that
Yeah.
are going to help advance
Oh yeah,
care.
they're actually researching stuff. Yeah, they're yes, they're busy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So they're actually doing
But
that
you
type of
send them
stuff. Like a
stuff.
lot of
Yeah,
times,
yeah, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. No. I was going to say, so a lot of times we just give them the actual product, say, hey, we just want you to try it. And that's the biggest sale. The biggest sale is them agreeing to put their hands on it and actually use it.
Mm.
After that, they're going to be able to formulate their own use cases, their own ideas. Yes, we help guide that conversation a little bit
Mm.
with giving them other things that have happened, but their goal is to help us really understand how this can be practically used in the field.
Yeah. Well, if I, how do you convince them? Because that's also something like I will send somebody something for free. He gets
Mhm.
this machine that he has to start learning to use. Why would he like bother with this? How do you convince them to actually try it on patients?
Well, so the biggest thing is that, like, especially if you can say, and this is how we did it, because this is a straight German-based product, right? We can say over in Europe, this is being done already at scale, right? And so, like, people normally want to do something that's already like ahead of the curve, and
Yeah.
a lot of people are really trying to get their name out there. So people that are like even, that's why I don't start with the big guys at the big conferences. I go down to the micro level where someone's trying to climb the ranks, where they're speaking for
Mm.
free still, and talk to those guys. Because how do they elevate? How does that person? Here's myself. How do you get to where you want to get to, Rasmus? If you want to go to the next level, how do you get there? And if you
Mm.
see something if you see a good product that's already being used in other countries that you know is going to come over to your lane
Yeah.
eventually, why not get behind that and then you can ride that wave?
Yeah.
Instead of you trying to create your own wave, ride a wave that's coming. And that's the pitch.
It's
So
like what they said, this future is already here. It's just unevenly distributed. So the next tech is available. It's just it's not in the US at the moment.
that's right. I
Yeah.
mean, but which is 100% true because it is happening in other places. It
Yeah.
just hasn't hit this lane yet. And there's something, I mean, and there's products like that happening all over, even in tech, and it doesn't matter your industry.
Yeah.
There's something that people are gravitating towards at a very early stage. It could be your art, it could be your favorite artist. Your favorite artist,
Oh yeah.
is like underground right now, right? Like he's
Yeah.
playing in like garbage, bars and whatnot. And he's just doing it for a couple $100, maybe some actual, you know, free
And
drinks.
but you hear like, oh my God, this guy's gonna be big. Like this is good.
This
It's
guy's
good.
got it,
Yeah.
right? And then you start letting your friends know about that. And that's a great way to kind of look at your actual products. Hey, we got something that's happening over here in this small little lane. Man, I think you might want to check this out because I see you talking about this subject. I think it
Mm.
ties in well with that. That gets them more interested. So that's the pitch is to really sell the idea of, hey, you might want to catch this wave if you want to build your career.
And actually, I like that we started this perspective because now it actually leads to like the patient testimonials. Because if you would start from zero, like you had, like in your case, you have a successful run in Europe with your product, so you have that
Right.
to base this off. But then you would, now you would actually get patients because they would try it, they would have it for free, and
Yep.
now they start using it on patients, and patients should have good outcomes. And now,
Yes.
but that leads us to the next level on this. So we would, so for, well, sorry, so stay on the key opinion leader. What happens with these guys now when they're using the machine? In your case, it's a machine and they get good patient outcomes, they will say so when they are in these conferences. They because their whole point of their existence is to share what they know stuff that other people don't. So now the next conference comes up, they're gonna be like, hey, you got to use this machine because I got these really good treatment results. So but yeah, that alone though will not sell any products. That's what we're here because we talked about just before we recorded that we are like I'm going to change my title. Like Joe is good. He calls himself a revenue specialist. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I should. I don't say marketing anymore. I'm a revenue specialist because it's about how you make money in the company, how marketing and sales like how to work together like to make money. That's what it's about. Like we don't talk marketing.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, man, just kind of talk about it for 2 more seconds because marketing to me gets a bad rap with guys like us because I
Mm.
mean, I was a salesperson first, right? And I think you're focused on sales
Yeah. Yeah.
and building businesses. And a lot of times, marketing today has become this super fluffy brand awareness thing that nobody can put their arms around, which I get it. That has its place. It's important. However, when you're mid-size, you're small, and you don't got to spend for that.
Yeah.
You can't just throw money at the wall and say, let's just see what's going to stick here. Like
Yeah.
you need to know that there's going to be some metrics that are going to have some impact, some outcome. So yeah,
But and even like this would be more effective if it would be effective used by a bigger corporate as well, but they're just not going to do that because that's not how corporates behave.
I mean, man, just I'm sorry, man. I'm like, now we're going way off script, but it's like if you think about HubSpot has been doing this thing now where they have built up their own podcast network. We were talking about that a
Mm,
little bit as
mm.
well, but they haven't. They're engaging KOLs. If you think about it, they're engaging tech KOLs to host podcasts on their network. But guess what they haven't done? They
Tell
haven't
me. Yeah.
and they haven't tapped in people like me that are the end users of HubSpot and saying, hey, you know what? What's the real outcome though from your product. And that's what the patient experience is really about right now. This is why it's so important
Transition is
because
the, yeah.
a lot of times in B2B, we stop at this like, hey, we're just marketing, right? I want to market to the person I want to sell to.
Yeah.
Great.
In your case, it's doctors. You're gonna, hey, Mr. Doctor, come on, get this, get this, get this, and you kind of forget that there's a next level here.
Next
There's
level
an
here.
end
I mean,
user.
it's not B2C. It's not transactional. It's not a simple thing, Like, cause yeah, like I might buy the soap. So if you market to me from an influence that says, hey, this made me feel like $1 million, my skin's all smooth, I'm glowing. All right, I'm kind of interested. Yeah, because that's another end user, done end user stuff. But in B2B, we stop at the B2B person and it makes us seem like slimy and cheesy. And that's what I got from my KOLs. And when we stopped only at the B2B level, everybody started to think that we were paying these guys. I'm like, we're not paying these guys. They're
Yeah.
just doing it for us. But that's the natural inclination, right?
Yeah.
You would think, hey, if they're behind us so hard, it's not because they're just getting great outcomes. There has to be a check
So
aligned
the
because
kind
there's
of, you
always
need the patient's perspective as well. Otherwise, I don't trust you, because like, why would?
trust starts to
Yeah.
erode.
Yeah.
It starts to erode. So like I've been with this company for 8 years, the longest I've ever been with a company. I was the guy who was in and out because I was always doing my own thing, right? But I've been with this company for a long time because of the freedom that they give me to go experiment like this. And we're going to talk about that actually too. But
Mm.
but literally, like comes down to the KOLs in the beginning that they were pumped because they were early users. Like, oh man,
Yeah.
this is great. That lasted for a good 3 years, and because it was so new, nobody heard of it. It was
Yeah.
all new information. And like healthcare, which takes super slow. Everybody's laggard because they want to. The whole motto is we want to do no harm. So you don't
Mm.
want to bring on something that's going to go harm people. So you got to be cautious there. That's the right thing to do. That lasted 3 years. After that 3 year mark, you start to say, all right, I get it. Great product, sure, because I hear that all the conferences, everybody's talking about it. I get it. You guys are great. You're probably paying these guys in the parking lot. I know how this
Mm.
works now, right?
Mm.
We were
Which
not.
could happen in another, like, it's not like you might not have done that, but somebody else might.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I mean, people do this. I mean, they aren't wrong for thinking that way.
Mm.
But with that though, like we weren't doing it that way. But the part that we're leveling it up now is saying, hey, look, don't just trust the KOLs, right? Because KOLs get paid to speak, right? That does happen.
Mm.
So that's not wrong. But the KOLs should be sharing their actual patient stories. And that's what we started to encourage them to help them do with that process,
So how
right?
do you do that? So let's move to that. So we have the key
Yeah.
opinion leaders loving this stuff. They're talking about conference and stuff. And
Mhm.
beginning, people are, yeah, like the doctors that you're trying to reach are like, yeah, sounds good. I'm interested. It drives a little bit of sales. And
Mhm.
then it's kind of taps out. But now you've gone over to getting the patient testimonial. So patients are happy. The key opinion leaders are saying their patients are happy. But now
Mhm.
how do you actually get from the mouth of the patient? What are you doing?
So the best way to do this is really to create a process that's easy for the KOLs to go about sharing their actual stories. So for instance, most of these KOLs are business owners too. I mean, this could happen in any other outcome because whoever you're selling to in B2B normally wants an outcome for their actual reasons
Mm.
too, right? So if you think about how do you make it easy, take away all the friction for them, make it easy for their patients to go about sharing their stories. One way is simply when they come into the doctor's office, you give them a script. Don't just let them tell you, hey, because all the doctors, I'm not sure how you guys do over in like Finland, but in the USA, they ask for reviews because
Mm.
they get more business if they can get more reviews. That's all about reviews.
Yeah.
And sometimes these reviews look like I had a great time.
Oh man,
Great
so it
experience.
feels like a bot now. It would
You're
be
like that
A Chinese
100%
person
about
signed up to get
a
review
hundred
and
percent. So we
yeah,
hired somebody over like over
yeah,
cross seas for like $2 an hour to write 1,000 comments, right?
yeah.
That's what it looks like and feels like. But sometimes they're actually
Even though
really
it might be a
passionate.
real person, because they're not busy. They're busy like, I'm happy. Dot. That's what I
Yeah,
write those all the time.
and they're probably really happy. But
Yeah,
what if they said, "Hey, you know what, Rasmus? Instead of you just saying you're happy, I mean, great, I love that. We have a cell phone right over there, if you don't mind, with a nice background, branded with our actual stuff behind it, right? And that becomes our testimonial wall. And we just have a cell phone behind a wall. Could you just give us 3 lines? One, how was your experience before you came in? I came in hurt because of a car accident. Great. Question number two, could you just tell me what your process or what your experience was like here at the clinic? Great. Say, hey, it was hard. I went through this, but man, it was only 2 weeks and that was great. And then the last line, how do you feel afterwards? How's your life now? And then if you share that in a simple, less than a minute, right,
and that's
video,
visually recorded like video.
yeah, yeah,
Oh
100%.
man, that's powerful.
I mean, dude, it's done,
And
bro.
they do that. And they do. The patients will do that.
Man, they have no problem doing it. And matter of fact, they even got to this level now where the patients are like taking pictures from like their accidents or whatever trauma they had, right? Putting that into video because like some of these guys are dangerous with their camera. I mean, think about all these tools that are out there now. Some
Yeah,
people are building up really good B-roll in between and building their own
yeah.
stories around this. But it comes down to creating a framework that's easy and seamless for them to know how to tell the story. And
Yeah.
so that way, like it makes the patient's, influence or them are able to kind of share their end user
Yeah.
experience seamless. And
Because
that's what I
because
think a lot of B2B marketers aren't doing. They aren't
yeah.
thinking about the end user. They aren't thinking about how to create a system for their KOLs or whoever they want to have impact with for their users to say, hey, like, tell me about your process. What if, this is so simple. We use one tool called, I think it's
Mm.
testimonial.io. We should reach out to those guys. But testimonial.io, brand new platform, it's pretty easy. But you literally they just give you a link and they tell you, it's almost like a prompted question. You say it right to the camera, it
Mm.
records it, it stores it online for you. So you can just reach
Yeah.
out to, so what if HubSpot, I've been a HubSpot user for now, I brought it onto the company almost 6 years ago. And I
Yeah.
was like, look, we got to stop using this other platform. It was too clunky. HubSpot's booming. Let's go give it a HubSpot. So what if HubSpot reached out to me and said, hey, you know what? All of our users, they got what, how many hundreds of thousands, maybe million
Mm.
users? I have no clue. Tons of users. If they just said, you know what, could you guys just give us a testimonial? Like, here's
Mm.
the format that we're looking for, but just tell us, you could just give your story and then have a team that's kind of sift through those really quick, pick out the best stories, edit up, curate it, boom, online. How much more meaningful was that
Yeah.
versus only having the expert KOL, which
Five
is
or
great.
5 stars. Like,
Yeah, and you probably pick up the best stories too, right?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
it's
so
a
you kind of
doctor,
curate that
and
process and get the
the
best stuff
when he
going.
gets
Like,
reviews
I
like
think
from his
that's what's missing in
experience,
B2B
he
marketing
wins
is
as well.
that
So he's
end
very happy to
user
have this type of
seamless
booth set
system
up
or
in
experience, a way of kind of
his office,
sharing
because that
what
would
they're
then benefit him
experiencing.
and the patient. Is I think it's they've had a transformative experience, and when they have that, people are like, I just have to tell this to somebody. And if you're helping me to do that, yes, go. Yeah, please. Let me just tell, because I was in so much pain and I'm not in pain anymore. Please let me share. So you're in a very easy environment. Because I was actually telling you in the beginning, why would they ever share? But it went, because naturally I would, like, always see these people, like, I was in a car accident, here's a photo of me in the hospital bed. Like, I see those, but like if I'm in pain, I usually never say, like, I'm technically in
Right.
pain now, I have pain in my foot, but I don't say that. so so
I
like
guess something like that
I
help you
just,
out with
yeah,
that.
maybe I need it because it's been going on for a while anyway. So I wouldn't post about it and stuff like this, but
Right.
if you would have me through, I would do it, because if it was set up like this, I would, because I'm like, yeah, sure, I can share. It's not that I want to hide it, especially if I get the treatment that's working. I don't, like, that's fine. It's just that I don't want to talk about it. It's not set up right. Even a person like you or me, who is actually quite open online and just sharing our faces and stuff, we wouldn't do it if it's not set up right.
Yeah, I mean, because honestly, like, I think that when we slow down and think about bigger than our actual objective, right? Like,
Mm.
it sounds kind of woo-woo, but I think this is actually how you get there. Is that if you slow down just that fraction and say, what are they experiencing, and how do I remove all the friction from that process so it's a win-win-win?
Mm.
And it doesn't normally have to involve money. I think money is probably the cheapest way to go about doing it. Because if I said, hey, Rasmus, if I give you $100, could you go write a testimonial? Sure, you'll probably write a great
Mm.
testimonial. But if I actually solve a real problem for you, like a real one, not just some fluff stuff,
Yeah, with a
like you
car
have foot
accident, my
pain,
back is
yeah,
messed up.
your whole back's messed up, and you actually help me get out of that. And do I have to pay you for that? Probably not. If I make it easy for you, if I say, hey, this is the process, all we need, takes less than 2 minutes, boom, you'll be in and out. If you don't mind doing that, that'd be awesome. And you don't put any pressure behind that. I mean, where's the need for some type of monetary exchange? And
Yeah.
on top of that, people aren't thinking about how do you give in business. People hear from Gary Vee all the time, give,
Mm.
give, give, and
Mm.
then ask, right? Like, how do you jab your way through this?
Mm.
What offers or what things can you give of value outside of money?
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of bad products get messed up because all they can give is money.
Yeah.
But if you actually have a decent product, you should be able to give something along the way.
Yeah. And they might feel, the patient or the doctor might feel like, like, okay, if they get the machine for free, they feel happy to talk about it because it was such a good deal for them.
Right.
And the patients get a good outcome. So they want to talk about that too, because they're happy to share that. And the patient themselves, if they have a really great outcome, they might feel like, yeah, I did pay for the service, or my insurance paid for it, but like, it doesn't feel like I haven't given enough. It might be like, this treatment was so good. It's not enough giving back just for me to say thank you and leave. I need to give more. And then you give them an opportunity to give. So that's a human need to be giving back. So it's like this win-win-win, as you mentioned. All right. Well, so far
100%.
this is all free. Well, okay, it takes time. I mean, I'd say this is a process that we're using, or that you're using, but it's still free. But now we
Yep.
go to the last part, because this is nothing new. You guys are listening. You've heard that you can do it. You can help get this. If a cool person is talking about your thing, it's going to be good, of course. And if your users are giving you testimonials and you can harvest them, yeah, it's called testimonial harvesting as well. You get that. That's good, of course. But now we come to the last part, which kind of ties this all together, and it's the category evangelist. So that's the new thing here. So
Yes.
this is the paid person normally. This would be an employee, for example. For example, he might be named, it might be Joe Lemon, for example.
Might be Joe Lemon.
Yeah. So
Might
tell
be
me,
this.
how does this tie? What does the category evangelist do, and how does it tie the whole thing together?
Man, this is the most important piece of all of it. This,
Mm.
this is if there's something that the listeners should tune into, and hopefully you kind of clip this up and put it towards the front,
Yeah.
because this is the thing that companies and B2B companies are missing on.
Mm.
And if you don't have a founder who's going to go stand on top of the mountaintop and preach or evangelize
Mm.
whatever your product or your service is, if you don't have a guy or a gal that's willing to go do that, you should hire that person. And you have to hire that person, but you don't just hire them with the saying, hey man, just the world's your Wild Wild West. You should create a framework that allows them to be successful what you're trying to curate in that process. And that's
So
kind of
what would
what,
that person? Yeah, but what would that person
yeah,
do? Let's say they're
yeah.
Anna Anderson. She's on LinkedIn. She's hired as an evangelist. What should she be doing?
So if they don't have experience in that industry, and that's totally cool, they just need to be curious and they need to know how to host a decent conversation. So they should start a podcast and they should invite their current users, those current KOLs, to come onto the podcast and talk about industry topics. Don't talk about your product like it's an infomercial. Nobody wants to hear that. The goal of the podcast is not to be top of the charts. The goal of the podcast is to have nuggets that you can share with other industry folks about what's happening. So,
Mm.
like, again, think about you going into a conference room of 20 to 50 people and sharing something valuable on that podcast,
Yeah.
right? So, talking to other doctors, it's just about industry talk, about what's happening in the space. Maybe our product comes up. Normally it does. I don't have to even present it, but normally the product will come up because they're using it, right? But it's gonna be natural. I don't have to position it to be something like sales pitch.
Yeah.
And they'll talk about things around pain management and other things that
Yeah.
they're doing that
So
that that
if
that
I
will
we
be
talked about this
valuable.
before a little bit, but we're talking about the word like category evangelist. So the
Yeah.
difference between category and brand, it comes up in the podcast every now and then, but it's like they wouldn't be promoting use our tool. They're not a brand evangelist, like use our sneakers. It's like what is the best way to treat this type of injury, or what are the this or it's a new if it's a new category. The best one if the category you have one just one product in the category, then this is much easier. If you have a
Yeah.
lot of competition, it's harder to go for category because then they might choose something else. But if you're the only solution, I think you're maybe guys in that field. It's like you have some type of your treatment way of treating is different. It's a different category. Instead of doing, I don't know, massage, you're using your tool. So you shouldn't do massage. You shouldn't do this. You should do this instead. Or you shouldn't go operate. To say you shouldn't operate. You shouldn't go in and operate. Right. You should use this instead. This other therapeutical device. Now you are capturing the problem has a demand already, but now you're talking about there's another category solution. You can do this type of treatment. Now, if we just happen to have a machine that does that treatment, but you could use hypothetically anything to have that type of result, like the type of treatment. It's just you should just not operate. You should do this other thing instead.
Well, and like the best part about working with KOLs is that
Mm.
they're used to speaking to their audience about their problems.
Mm.
And so just in the beginning, I don't how I've done it personally is, over time, it wasn't like a lot of formation, but the best stuff was literally just when I let the KOLs speak and then I found those problem nuggets and we learned along the way.
Mm.
So you put them on the platform, you know how to ask good questions, they'll open up and tell you exactly. And this is like market research. This is what marketers talk about doing if we want to use some marketing talk, right? Yeah, this is you doing your market research in the beginning. Get with KOLs that are trying to be industry leaders. They're like early people that are early into using brand new like tech or devices, and then have them come on your show and tell you what the problems are. Get your market research.
But
Boom.
why is it that not enough, Joe? If they just, they are their KOLs, they're on the conference and they're talking. What is the evangelist like adding to this whole equation here?
This is why it's so important because you need somebody that's almost in-house who's committed to understanding how what those KOLs are highlighting in these conversations apply to whatever product or service you have.
Mm.
And then you bake that into something that can be reframed in a way that can be positioned for the sales team. Because
Um,
because to me, this is the mix, right? This is where content gets gooey and fluffy. Is like, oh, now we're talking about brand awareness and like vanity metrics. But if you have somebody in-house whose sole purpose is to be the revenue researcher, say, how do I crank out this research so I can hand it off to my sales team so they can go deploy it and they can go ahead and actually turn over more deals faster.
Well, so it means like normally, let me translate a little bit, but like that's the if key opinion leader guy who's using the tool, he loves it and he talks about it. But when he's writing a paper or speaking on stage, that's not usable in that format. it needs to be translated or adjusted to be for
Yes.
the audience, like what's important for to buying decision for our, in your case, doctors who are going to buy this.
Yes.
They need to be spoken to them, not whatever that key opinion leader might consider the best way to deliver. And he might talk about 10 other things in his speech, not only about
As
how
he
to,
should. Yeah,
yeah,
that's right. That's right. Because as he should, because honestly, he's not paid by them by the actual company because we don't want him to be,
yeah,
employed by the company.
yeah,
You want that distance, you want that separation, you want them just to be authentic and sharing.
yeah,
And the patient obviously has no clue what we're talking about. They're like, hey, I just had a great experience, right? So
yeah,
we just want them to
yeah.
talk about their outcomes. But somebody in-house needs to be thinking about how is the market talking about this and how can we curate this in a way that is usable to drive revenue.
Yeah, and then it comes to distribution as well. Like if this person is, if it's, now we're talking medical here, but if whatever field you're in, if you all have, well, that person, the evangelist, becomes kind of a key opinion leader in the space for that category. That's, I guess, the goal for this. And we all have that in a certain, we listen to Chris Walker about marketing. Say we all listen to him. He's great. We listen to what he has to say. So he is our guy, and he is using data that he's gathering from all over what he's working with and giving it. He's really good at doing it, giving us in a format that we can all understand and use in our own businesses. So that's what this category evangelist would be doing. Then they get the opinion leader information, that the patient results, and helps to create understandable top content for us, that we can, like, we understand how this work. He give, and by the way, this, I want to use this from my framework as well, the two parts, like empowering, giving this is how you could, for free, like I give you free advice, this is how, from what I learned from this key opinion leader or from this patient, you can really do this. That would be easy. Use it in your clinic. It's free advice. Or also reframing that you thought, according to the KOL, you thought you should operate on this type of injury, but you shouldn't. That's not a good idea. You should, based on what he said. So it's not, I don't have to be a doctor to say this. I'm just using, this is what I learned from my podcasting with this guy a couple of times. And then it's distributed. Yeah.
Man, and so let me kind of hash this out because this is
Yeah.
something that I've kind of been doing now, but this is how the actual, it kind of grows. And
Mm,
this for the person that's in-house doing this, the person that's that curator inside the company, you start off because I had no knowledge about medtech device sales prior.
mm,
And so I started just curating, asking questions, just curious about the industry, bring them on the show, learning. Over time, you start to reformat that. Then over time, you become your own expert within the industry.
yeah. You learn quite a
So,
lot. Yeah.
so I was at a show recently and we had like a 10 by 10 booth, right? Like nothing major, 10 by 10 booth. I always bring out the microphone. So I had my videographer there with me as well. I think I was telling you about this,
Yeah.
right? And we just invited over our current customers. I did it so we can gain more awareness at the booth, right? I was doing the vanity awareness part. What happens from this, whenever the camera stops rolling, we're gonna do like 4 or 5 interviews, so nothing crazy. But people come up to you and they're asking you questions about the industry. They're asking me about their competitors. Like, hey, like so we have like about 4 or 5 real competitors in the USA now. When I first started, we had like maybe 1 or 2. So they're like, hey, that guy over a couple lanes over, do you know about his product? Of course I do. Yeah, I know all these guys here. And then I can give them honest insight about it. They're asking a salesperson, actually.
Yeah.
Imagine this. They're asking a salesperson about their competitor. Now, because I've been doing this long enough, I don't just come in and bash them because that's stupid, right? Like
Yeah.
you come in and you
But you
state
know the
objective
differences
things.
because you've been hearing this now for 8 years.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I think there's the benefit of what I was when I was younger. I never understood, why would you ever use a consultant? But I'm like, no, the consultant has the advantage of repetition.
That's right.
Like you get to talk with all the KOLs and you hear about all their patients and you see all the patient reviews. Like you probably have more insight than any KOL after a while, because you've heard what they all have to say. You've heard, let's say, 50 of them. Like, so you probably know more than they do.
Well, and then on top of that, so I might not know more about the body and like how the body
Oh yeah,
operates
no, yeah,
holistically, but when this in my lane, like I would put myself right up there with anybody as far as being able to talk about my small little lane, right?
yeah, yeah,
And that's what happens over time is that you do become this industry expert in your space. That's why I think if the founder's willing to do it, it's best the founder does it.
yeah.
But this is an actual long-term marathon type of investment into somebody or this actual idea of having these conversations because it will evolve and it will elevate over time if you stay consistent.
Yeah, I have a question. There's two reasons this works. The first one, the one obvious one for me, is that you're creating touch points from different locations. So it's not just I heard it in a conference. It's not just that I saw a testimonial about this patient. I'm also hearing it from Joe's podcast, and I see it in a YouTube clip or something. Like it gets from so many different places, and it racks up the hours. Like the normal, this is changing, of course, but in B2B, it's very common that the only interaction I have with the brand is to the salesperson,
Yes.
maybe what the salesperson is sending me. So
Yes.
it's like it's very biased, and
Extremely biased.
we don't like, humans don't like biased stuff. So I have a chance, if I have a chance to get from all kinds of sources, it increases my likelihood to buy. And what Google was calling the 7 hours, 11 touch points, and 4 different locations, or like 2 different websites or environments that you get this. That's what's needed on average to convince somebody to buy. But I actually, so that's, but the thing is, depending on what you're doing, like you're not like that big of an influencer. Like if you like, if we took like, but you're still converting to sales. So that's what got me curious now. How are you able to 5x the sales guys' efforts with this? Like what else? What, because you mentioned that you mentioned a little bit like you curate, or you adjust the opinion leader insights into sellable nuggets. So could you go more practical? How do you actually make this work?
Several different ways. So
Mm,
so normally it's a very omni-channel approach, right? I use some
mm,
marketing jargon. But the best way I think that I started with was to literally take those conversations, clip out those key note, like those little key notes, put them into a source like Vidjar or VAM, I believe you can use as well.
yeah.
Put them into email and send those directly to your prospects. So now you're driving that KOL conversation right to the end, right to the
And
person
yeah, and the
I'm
in
trying to
the
buy.
doctor in this case would never have, he wouldn't have seen it if you didn't send it to him.
If he wasn't at the conference, he wouldn't know,
Oh yeah, of course,
right?
yeah.
And I mean, so literally that piece of the puzzle. And normally these conferences are small, like say 20 to 50 people. But from a salesperson standpoint, if you got 20 or 50 people of your buyers in the right room, and let's just say my goal is 25 real customers a year.
Wait, so have the leads increased, or are you just closing way more?
Both.
Both.
But
Yeah.
the leads that I care about, because we get more action on the website. That's great.
Yeah.
What I care about is what the salespeople are telling me is really closing. And when I look at the revenue dollars that are closing per each rep, that's what I care about. And so
Yeah.
before it was they would get, like, let's say I would give them one hot lead that would convert into a real deal. You know what I mean? A month. So they
Yeah.
might get 3 real leads, and then one would be like ready to close, right? And yeah, they might get 10 total, but I would get rid of 7. Have
Yeah.
3 that were real. Now it's going to 5. I can give them 5 real opportunities. And I say opportunity, I mean things that are going to close. That's
Yeah.
how I look
Yeah.
at it. I don't look at this from a standpoint of, oh, they're interested, they're raising their hand. No. These people are closing deals. They're closing on average between 4 to 5 deals per month, whereas they were closing one, right?
So
And so there's a
is
lot
this
of junk
a,
that's
but are
coming
we
in.
looking at, is this a accumulation of your activity over years that we're seeing the harvest? Or is it something that you, I'm wondering if this category evangelist, like if there any part of this that you implemented relatively recently that we're actually seeing, that's the reason of this uptick?
So the biggest reason of the uptick is when I went to YouTube and we
Mm.
start putting the videos on YouTube, and then we saw more in demand. Look, we saw
Oh, I
more
just realized
traffic
I
to the
just see you
website.
on LinkedIn, man. That's because I mean I'm not your customer, so
Yeah, yeah,
ah yeah,
100%.
tell me, yeah,
I mean, so like literally, we would take these clips, we put them onto the company YouTube page because YouTube is the most searchable, right? And so people are so for our industry, where all of our clients are, they aren't on LinkedIn because they're small business owners.
yeah,
They're on Instagram. They're on Instagram and Facebook with their families. I
yeah,
mean, like they're doing family
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So we can find more people historically DMing them on Instagram than we could find them on LinkedIn. And so they're also searching a ton of these
Yeah, but
conversations.
every now and then they'll do a search, and when
Every
they
once in a
do,
while,
your
every
videos will
once in a
pop
while,
up.
they'll do a search for the KOL. Like, hey, what is Ken Johnson looking at from this major hospital? I mean, like, what is he talking about today? They'll
Yeah,
search him in YouTube. And if he happens to be on our YouTube page talking about us, industries things, they'll keep poking around. And that to me has been the biggest mover as far as inbound leads.
yeah.
Now, you accompany that with a way to kind of keep them engaged, this middle of the funnel process where I just nurture. I'm not even doing call to action. I'm just nurturing out these little
Wait, but
nuggets.
there's some stuff you do in between there that you should mention in your original video what you
Yeah,
did about this. You mentioned that you're not now. We made it sound like you do videos now, and you
yeah,
that's the stuff. No, but you actually do events as well. And you have digital stuff too, like to
yes.
get people in. Tell me a
Yes.
little bit more about that.
Man, so man, thank you for that because the whole micro events to me is still one of my favorite plays.
Yeah,
Like literally going to these larger events and hosting a smaller thing with it. Like, and so for instance, right before the big event that we did in Boston, this was like, I guess last week.
Mm.
And so big event in Boston, 15,000 people, which is big for us. And 400 plus vendors. We're one of 400 vendors, right? We had the smallest booth size, 10 by 10. So we would do the podcast stuff, but I would also, before the show, have a small group of people come to dinner. There's only 10 people at dinner, but the right people at the dinner. And this is the process of just bringing these people together. And then when they come into the booth, we already kind of had that little pre-show conversation. Now we're having more banter because we already hung out the night before. Now we have great content that we can talk about industry related things, not
Yeah,
sales.
because the people you would invite to that dinner is primarily the people you're going to interview, plus some other. And I mean,
And,
and as you talked about the previous podcast, these
and
people,
plus
the
they'll
key
bring their
opinion
friends.
leaders or so who's coming, they don't have anything to do that night before usually.
No,
So
I
they're
mean,
like, hey, you want to
they're
come
just
to have a
hanging out.
dinner? You'll be like, yeah.
They're just hanging out.
Yeah.
Free food, just to hang out. And so they're not just sitting around the hotel board.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Because think about it, the people that I'm talking to, they aren't like Kim Kardashian or anything. They're not like, being flown in on like private jets. These guys are nano influencers at best. 2,000 followers. They're not some big super names like that. A couple of them are, but most of them are just small people, small like have a very small following. But when they talk, teachers of the teachers, people actually listen to them. And so
Yeah.
they could bring people like to an actual decent room for us. For instance, one of the guys who we had at the dinner taught the actual teachers, right? And so he taught a good 20 of the, people that were going to be talking at this big conference. One of the people in there was able to drive 400 people to an actual talk. They happened to mention us. That was great for our actual brand.
Yeah.
Like so these people know how to do that, right? They have real impact, not just kind of the digital impact, but they have impact where people say,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
if you're talking about something, I actually want to go listen. Like I'm curious
Yeah.
because you're getting real outcomes, right? So now I want to go see what's going on. And that's the thing that they haven't really scaled online yet. That's another huge opportunity for those guys. But either way, they're not there yet. So being able to get those people in their local regions and put them on a platform, most preferably your platform,
Yeah.
and pull out those little nuggets, put them into nurturing campaigns, put them on your actual YouTube page, put them at small events, and they happen to mention you. That's that omni-channel influence that I was talking about.
And I can see here the category evangelist role is very closely related to these key opinion leaders. Like be
Yes.
involved with them, hanging out with them, interviewing them, meeting them offline. Like this whole, I can see how that all ties together there. But there was something else you do with the customer. So you had the YouTube stuff, yes. So now I'm thinking now primarily you have an email sequence that goes out. But how would I know that I should be in the email sequence? How do you know that I exist?
Yeah. So all types of ways. I mean, literally, it's just us having a basic call to action, like pop-ups on the website, join the actual newsletter, podcasting out there. Influencer campaigns, I think, are great. Like when I'm talking, KOL campaigns
Mm.
are great. Where I'm having other people talk for us, and they're saying, "Oh, you should learn more about this product." Jump on their actual newsletter, learn more. Video categories where they can go to a separate online group community and just learn purely about the product. I mean,
Yeah.
that type of stuff I think is the things
But
that
it's the general funnel is like either some they just drive you to the website.
that's it.
That's how it goes.
Draft the
Right.
website. Draft the
Yeah.
website. I mean,
But don't you have like some like I don't know some online stuff as well like webinars or something? Do you have anything like
oh,
that?
for sure. I mean,
You
I
see,
mean, like,
I have to dig with you, Joe. You're like, oh, of course, I have that too. Yeah.
I mean, man, Rasmus, man, this is one of those things that we've just been doing, man. I mean,
Yeah.
so like, yeah, we have a place where you can go watch all the actual videos with these KOLs. You have to
Mm.
sign up for the actual online group so you have access to it. That's another way that we can kind
Oh, you
of,
had to sign up to get access to the whole
yeah,
library.
yeah, yeah,
All
yeah,
right, there we go.
yeah.
That's nice.
I am thinking about opening it up though, because like I think that what's happening with YouTube is where it's just so beneficial for people to be able to search on their own time
Mm.
and then just find it on their own. They'll eventually hit the website. And so the more that we start putting that KOL content out there, just like ungated, to me is something that I think we'll probably do in the future because that's been proven just to drive more traffic to the
Yeah,
website.
I'm thinking the same. Like I hate pushing people to buy something. That's not my.
Yeah,
I don't like that. I want them to be like, I need to do something. I'm like, yeah, let me help you get there, like wherever you're going to.
right.
So if I have a car accident, back pain or something, I'm like, okay, and I just have watched like 5 videos about how to treat back pain with using your method. I'd be
Mhm.
like, maybe I should just go buy it, and then
Especially if those videos are people are like, hey, I tried all this other stuff. That really didn't help me. Not saying that stuff doesn't work, just didn't help me.
yeah.
Imagine that message, right? And then you're that same guy who's tried other stuff as well. You're on your fourth or fifth thing.
Mm.
And then, yeah, it makes sense for us to talk now. Why not have a
Yeah,
conversation?
exactly. Why not test? Because nothing else has worked so far.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, and then you said so you're 5xing the closing which is incredible. But also you were saying the type of leads you're getting now, they're warm. They're coming in like practically ready to buy.
Yeah, so what I've noticed, I think this is across like every industry, is that people, especially in B2B, they don't want to talk to anybody in sales until they're like piping hot. I mean, like up until they're ready to do something. So the biggest thing that I've noticed that when I talk to people and I ask, hey, how'd you learn about us? It's a question everybody should ask. And they'll normally have a couple touch points. They'll say, hey, I spoke to this one other person already. I spoke to this other doctor. My friend has it. I've been watching this KOL series and I see some stuff on Instagram. Like if we have those three touches, I'm like, well, are you on Instagram too? Cool, great. What's your Instagram handle? Have you seen this? Like, yeah, stop. This is why I'm even reaching out. Normally it's two or three of those touch points already
Yeah.
before they talk to sales. So by the time they get the sales, there already is a level of interest and there's a level of education.
Yeah.
Educated buyers are the best buyers to me. I only want educated people to come to me. So the more I can do to educate you about what we're doing before you pick up the phone. Don't talk. I mean,
And
like,
that's
yes, talk.
scalable, right? We don't want to
Yeah,
talk like if you said
yeah.
like, what about this? What about that? Don't look like you watch videos. Like, like,
Go watch a video on your own time,
yeah,
and then once you're ready, we can totally talk. I can walk you through it, but look, you aren't going to believe me. I mean, like, right?
yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
come on. I can give you all the answers now, but what's the point of that? Because you're not going to respect it. I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. You're going to question it. Why not hear from somebody else, and then let's talk to sales.
Yeah. There we go. So and so why this goes into the authentic content method here is like when you have all these people speaking in this system, and then including like the having the category evangelist who actually shares their voice and phrase and curates all this information, gets the get highlights the people who otherwise maybe in your case aren't that digitally accessible. Otherwise, also they're almost secret. Otherwise, it
Yeah.
makes money doing all this. And otherwise, you would
Well,
have to go knock doors, go to conferences, shake hands, and like how yeah. If you compare this method to how you did like before you got involved in this method, how was it then? How did you guys?
I could tell you exactly. I still have like nightmares about it.
Yeah.
So literally, it's like data mining, it's door to door, old school methods, cold calling, like and that stuff still works. I have nothing wrong with doing those things, especially if you don't know where to start. Man, get your butt outside the
It's
house,
just
go.
painful for the soul.
It's painful for the soul, man.
Yeah.
And look, that's a young man sport.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely something where you have to just be willing to go out there and just get a whole bunch of no's. And that's how we all start, right? So it's cool. With that, a smarter way, it still takes work. So it's not like you're going to be lazy here with this. It still takes a lot of work to go find those KOLs, have those conversations, nurture those relationships,
Yeah.
get them to actually put on the patient, get the patients to get the outcomes, have a system in place for that, where it's happening reoccurring, and then influence your company to give you the latitude and the freedom to go curate this, spend your time curating this information and something that's going to be valuable to the actual sales team. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
still work, So doing all those pieces of the puzzle is still very important. However, though, when you do that, man, it's like a centrifuge. Like the stuff just happens at such a faster rate over time. And whereas that's something that you can see exponential growth with. The other stuff is just linear.
Yeah.
The more doors that you knock, the more phone calls you make, yeah, the more outcomes you get.
Yeah.
With this, you get the content working for you. You leverage the content from each three parties. Think about this. I have my own platform. I talk about stuff on my two podcasts, right? Like so they're hearing about me talking about my marketing and sales experience on my stuff. And
Mm.
every once in a while, I'll sprinkle in what we're doing with the company. The KOLs are talking about what they're doing. They haven't been talking about our product. That's another separate resource that's
Mm.
spinning out their
Yeah.
own leverage, their own content.
It
And
might
then
be
the
not
patients.
practically no overlap either. It could be like it's a completely new audience that are listening to
Normally it's totally new audience. Like, because I'm talking to salesmen, I don't really make my content that much for like doctors. I talk to people like us that are like
it.
in
Yeah.
house
Yeah.
working, trying to build something, right? And then the doctors are making it for the doctors, and then the patients are talking about their own experience. Each three of us now are leveraging our content totally independent, and you can see how that builds up to build a lot more credibility around your product or your service.
And it's scalable. Like I also started my life as like a lowly salesperson, so to say. And I think everybody should experience it to know what it's
Oh
about.
man, you have to. It's the
But
best.
I do. That's why I moved over to this field as well. I love that when you do content right and people understand you, they trust you. Like it doesn't have to be a live discussion every time and me calling you when you're not ready. Like it doesn't have to be like that anymore. That's not. We don't have to live in that world. We can live in a more. Hey, like you saw my stuff. Let's collaborate. Like all right, let's do that. Maybe let me watch a couple more videos before I'm ready. And then yeah, great.
I mean, man, well, one of the guys I have to give a lot of props to is Matthew Ray Scott, right? So he
Mhm.
was in the space for many years, and Matthew Ray Scott does this whole thing around personalized videos. But
Mm.
his approach to me is the best. Like he just has salespeople. go out there sharing ideas. And so you're not pitching for time. You're not pitching for, hey, let's meet up. You're not doing that. You're just going on there and say, hey, doc, here's an idea. Boom, done. No follow-up request. You know how to find me. I
Yeah.
reached out to you on
Mhm.
email. So, I mean, I'm assuming
But
that you're
here's
smart
this.
to figure out how to press reply. If not, maybe that's probably not the right customer. But for the most part, people can figure out how to get to you.
Yeah.
But you share your best stuff, like your best stuff, not just, hey, call me if you want to get it, right? You know?
Yeah.
It's like you give it up front, you give the idea away, and then let the things start coming in inbound. It takes time, but if you're consistent, it will pay off.
Yeah. I saw something else I want to mention that the category evangelist, the employed person, would be really close to the key opinion leaders. But actually, in this case, they're very close to the sales guys as well. Like we kind of mentioned, we didn't mention it straight up, so that you have continuous feedback from the sales guys. What are they saying? Are when are they coming in? What other mediums have they watched us? Have they seen? Like you're checking that all the time.
I have to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, man, and I think it's somebody who this person is. They have to, one, have the respect of the salespeople, and they have to live like the sales world. They can't come from this third-party research or marketing method mindset. They have to have a sales mindset because salespeople care about what? Normally one thing.
yeah. Closing.
Yeah, I mean,
ABC. Always be closing.
I
Yeah.
mean, they're in sales. They care about sales. I
Money.
mean, that's not they care about closing deals,
Yeah.
and they don't even care about leads. Like, let's be
Yeah.
honest, they don't care about that. So when the marketers start talking about, hey, we got all these leads, yeah, that's cool. What is closing? Like, what's actually hitting my commission books?
Yeah.
And that's the language that we talk. We talk about action. And so I'm looking for, hey, did you get a meeting with this person? Did
Mm.
you guys meet up? Great. How long is that deal taking to close? Like, not is it going to, how long is it taking to close?
Mm.
If it didn't close, I got more questions. We got
Yeah,
to have a
something's
deeper
wrong. Yeah.
conversation, right? So if you're telling me before, when I gave you a touch point, it was 90 days, and now we're taking us down to a 14 to like 21 day type frame, so you can close within that same month. Now we're cooking, right?
Like your pipeline is on fire.
That's what we need. But if it's not doing that, I'm questioning more and more of your sales, like questioning, like how well are you going about trying to like position us? And then I'm also questioning myself, like, hey, how qualified was this lead? Were they educated enough? Were they the right person? Is the timing off, right? Like, how can we get that?
Yeah,
How can we get that time to go to
you don't.
bed?
It seems like you don't want to have anybody in the sales funnel who is not ready to buy. They shouldn't be there.
No. I mean, look, that to me is something that's in the middle of the funnel pack, but
Mhm.
I want to bring this bottom of the funnel activity to the salespeople. The people that need nurturing, let's keep them up there. Let's keep them educated.
All right, so
Let's
you don't even let them. The salespeople don't even know that they exist practically. Like
no,
that's what yours. You work
yeah,
with the guys who are not really ready yet. You feed them the emails, where you feed the KOL information and stuff, and then when you see like, oh, they're ready to, now you can feed them to a rep.
even and this is where HubSpot needs to start doing this, man. Like I'm such a big HubSpot fan, but like this is where HubSpot needs to start talking to people like myself because how do I know when they're ready to transition, right? It's a big question
Mm,
here.
mm.
And how do you know is when they start to see that same person have 2 or 3 clicks on your actual engagement. How I know is when they start to watch my actual video art videos all the way through. They didn't just click it on and then they leave. I started and I get notifications of this, right? So video art would tell me, oh, this person watched 100%. Great.
Oh,
And then
then
I'll
you
go
know.
to
Okay, this
HubSpot
is yeah,
and then I'll go to HubSpot and say, all right, this person's clicking on all of our emails. This guy's engaging with the videos. Hey,
yeah,
salesperson, now it's time to talk to this person.
yeah,
And so, like, being that curator, like somebody that's focused on revenue, not just focused on leads
hmm
and flow and,
hmm
like, brand awareness, that's sexy and cool. I get it. I like
yeah.
saying that stuff too sometimes.
Yeah.
I kind of don't anymore. I kind of throw up a little
But anyways, but
bit.
here, where you look, I love the process here. It's great.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
don't let the salesperson touch it practically before they're ready to.
I mean, because
They're
like me
absolutely.
in sales, I wouldn't want to talk to them while they're up there in like La La Land. Like, I
Mm.
mean, yeah, sure, it's nice sometimes if you're a good one. If you're a good person, yeah, you can pull them down through the funnel. But most people, let's be honest, they're not strong enough in their industry. They don't know how to have deep enough conversations or that expertise to be able to pull somebody through the funnel. They don't have that skill set. So how do you get there? You have to have somebody that's knowledgeable and deep enough to educate the actual users, people, or the KOLs, whoever's going to be using your product how to best kind of follow through that
Are
and
you
then
making a
bring them up.
pull? Are you making gravity? Maybe you're creating gravity
Gravity,
through all this
gravity,
content. Yeah, all this content
gravity.
that you have is the right type. It just pulls them slowly but surely down the funnel, and then eventually be like, yeah, I want a new machine anyway. The old one that I'm using not that effective. Like, and I got excited. I saw this video. So like, yeah, let me buy it. Come on, let me try it. Looks
Let's
fun.
try it. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I
you've
mean,
been
I mean, to me, man, that's the part. that internally, this is the biggest sale to me. The biggest sale of all this, like the patient, experience, the KOLs, those are easy conversations to have to me and frameworks to build. But the hardest one is internally, is the internal like process from the leadership. Leadership has to be bought into this. They have to
Mm.
say, okay, this is going to be cool. We gotta let this run. This is totally different than what most companies do. You know this. We're talking about GE, like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. We're beating what is it? Yeah, we're beating these big healthcare operators on their YouTube Shorts.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, think about it. They don't. Who's the face of GE right now?
I have no idea.
I mean, out of all the hundreds of thousands of products they probably sell and book and SKUs they have, but it's hard pressed to find a face that you can tie to one of the things that's meaningful in their portfolio of products, right? So this is the process that I think that when companies looking at, hey, I have this suite of products or I have this one product, I need to put a face to it internally and allow that face to start to curate some of these conversations, find these KOLs, bring them in my funnel, have them curate some stuff, help them create systems that have their end users talk about it and allow that gravity to kind of pull the actual right sales prospects and then flip them over to the sales team.
All right, I want to finish on this note here. I wrote this before as I analyzed this case here,
Mhm.
and we had that. I wrote this. So you get the KOLs, and as a customer, I trust them because they're experts. Then we
Mhm.
have the patients. I trust them because there's their experience. I trust their experience, even though it's subjective, but I trust that. And then lastly, if you have a good evangelist, like I trust that person's sincerity. Like if they're really pushing, like this is freaking great. This category is amazing. You know, those three combined it like I'm convinced with those three together. Right.
I mean,
Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
no, 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 man, 100%. I think that, it's very, trust shouldn't be handed out, just easily, right? Like I think we have to scrutinize so many things these days that the more that you can be consistent with what you're up to and the truth behind what you're trying to pursue, whatever that is, whatever angle it is, man, and from the patient standpoint, from the KOL standpoint, and from the person that's inside curating everything, right? Like the more that you can just stand on what you believe in over time, I think people start to realize, okay, I can get behind this person. I can really trust them, and that will build over time. It's not something that you can earn overnight.
Yeah.
So I don't expect anybody to hear me one time and say, I'm in on Joe. I like him. I'm
Yeah.
in. No, 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 man. Test it. I mean, hold me up to over time. Let's see what happens. Talk to this KOL. Test them. See if they're just selling out to anybody, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Do you
I
think
mean,
we
because
pay them? Does
honestly,
it anybody else paying them? Look, take a look. Yeah.
that's right. Because if they are, then you're right in asking those type of questions. Even the patients, if they're sharing products and they're just, we call them product, junkies or whatever. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like you see
Yeah.
those influencers
Oh
that
yeah.
like
Yeah.
that promote everything from
Yeah.
like soap to like hair wash, and
Yeah.
then they're
But
talking about makeup,
everything
and they
they
don't
need to
care.
survive. Like this is the best
Yeah.
tacos I've eaten. Like,
That's right. That's right, man. I mean, so like I don't trust those guys. They're talking about everything. But if you see one person talking about one thing, okay, maybe this is cool.
yeah.
They might be able to something.
And then you don't have one KOL. You
Yeah.
might have over time. I don't know how many you have, but there are tens of
12.
them. You know.
We have 12. Yeah.
12, yeah,
Yeah.
already. And then we have all
Right.
the patients. I don't know how many, it might be hundreds. I mean, after a while, you just start to add up and you're like, you can see how this works. All right, Joe, is there anything else you want to leave with the audience before we close this recording?
Well, I mean, man, honestly, this is something that is a newer framework. It's something that I'm going to be putting together and something that other people could really learn from. So I have a couple ideas of what I'll name it and brand it later. But MedTech sales something needs to be there because in MedTech especially, this is something where I think that actual, someone's going to get behind it and be that revenue evangelist, however you want to kind of like claim it, needs to be there for people that are trying to get into something that's complex that they don't trust, that they should be skeptical about. There needs to be something there that they can kind of get behind and like a real framework that everyone can trust.
Yeah, getting from 90 days to 14 days in the sales pipe, like how the sales cycle and 5x the sales closing. I like those. They should be just on the book, and they don't even know what is inside. They'll buy it. All right, thank you very much, Joe, for coming. It's the
Awesome.
Joe Lemon podcast. Which was what is the other one? We should check you out.
Sales culture. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, look, honestly, if you go to like salesculture.co, that's where you can find the actual podcast. You can go to my actual personal brand, but I'm throwing a lot. It's like sales culture, medtechsales.co too. That's where I'll be having these actual like different type of frameworks for like medtech sales folks and
And then
marketing.
LinkedIn, and we can check
Of
out the
course.
company as well, Elevation Medical.
Shout out to
Uh,
Elevation Medical, man,
yeah.
just for giving me the actual latitude to just go do this type of stuff. Because I honestly, I think companies that aren't doing this, they're missing it. and leadership has to be on board because you can't have somebody outsider just do this. Yeah, of
Yeah. Gotcha. Thank you very much, Joe, for being here.
course, man.